365 days, but I treat every day like it's my last. I'm only concerned with building on the future, cause I can't change my past. Positive vibes for positive lives. She just giving you that truth and shifting your mind. It's more mental than you realize. It's up to you to take control, cause this world is cold and negativity gon' take its toll. Now we've been told any day could be your last. I'm embracing every moment and I cherish every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste The Therapist. Let's go.
Hi, beautiful people. For people watching me on the replay, thank you so much for watching me. I appreciate you. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. I come on, I talk to people who are doing things to empower the lives of others by sharing this story. And the goal behind me doing that is to help people shift the way they think. And we are currently on, this is episode 308, which means there are over 300 episodes that you can listen to help you shift your thought process. But today's episode, we're talking about relationships. And if you're new to the podcast, once a month, me and this guy here, we come on and we talk about relationships. But for people that are new, I'm going to let this guy introduce himself to you all.
This guy. Hello, I'm this guy. I'm Jeff. I'm a executive coach, leadership coach, trainer, and facilitator. Thank you for having me today, Celeste. I use the solution focused method, and we use that in order to help people solve problems in their own lives. In the end, that's all I love to do is help people solve problems. And that's why I'm here with Celeste the Therapist today. And we're going to answer your question. Let's do it.
And then can you just tell me what the solution focused method means or what it is?
Sure. The solution focused method, oftentimes we operate under it's a delusion that if we only knew everything about the problem, the solution would reveal itself, right? But in life, that's oftentimes not how it works. Oftentimes the answer cannot be known from where we stand. So the solution focused method is an idea of thinking about solutions first, right? Meaning, where do you want to be first? Trying things to get there and accepting that we may never even exactly know. We may never even exactly know what the problem was. So like an easy example is you get a flat tire. You don't run this long analysis on the tire and what got into it. And is it glass or plastic, or is it a screw or a nail, or what mile did that happen? Who cares? As soon as we can change the tire and get moving again, that's what we'll do. And that's, if you apply that to your life, you'll be a lot happier keeping momentum rather than the alternative, which is agonizing over how we fell in this ditch from the ditch. The ditch is a bad place to have perspective.
Dang, that's actually a really good example on the solution-focused method. We have a few questions, but just for clarity, for my audience sake, because I always say I'm a very solution-focused person. Why do you think that is not our first mindset when it comes to the issues that we tend to have? Why do you think we don't kind of focus on the solution and we get stuck in the problem, or we feel stuck in the problem?
You know what? I don't know that I haven't been asked that in a long time. That's a great question. I think.
I'm a therapist, Jeff.
Oh no! Well, yeah, of course. I think that you get some injury or something happens in your life, and it's screaming at you. It's all you can think about, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know. My son won't stop smoking weed. My son won't stop. All he does is smoke weed. He's a bum. My son's a bum. Mm-hmm. That seems like such a big problem. You're not looking at the strengths of the son, right? That he goes to school, or that he has good relationships with certain peers, or that he has a mentor that he talks to, and you're not focusing on. If I tell you, don't be a bum anymore, he could do that a lot of ways. One way to do that, for example, would be if he killed himself, he wouldn't be a bum anymore. But that's not what you mean, right? What you mean is you really mean you have some predetermined state. I want you to be a lawyer. Maybe the son instead wants to be an architect. And that's the real source of the issue. So if all you could do is say, I want you to, you back up one step. I want you to have a successful career.
Yeah.
Right. then instead of focusing on what they're doing that you object to, you've identified something that you and the son agree on. He wants to be an architect. You want him to be a lawyer. Both those are successful careers. Really, you'd be happy with either if you're a decent parent. And by focusing on that helps you move forward. But it's hard because the whole time what's screaming at you, you think you're saying, I want you to be successful. But what you're saying is, I don't like this one thing that you do, because that thing is screaming at you every time he walks by with red eyes or smells like weed or whatever.
Dang, that's good. That, and that, that's a great example too, like with relationships and how people will tend to, focus more so on the problem in the relationship and not kind of think about what's the solution or how can they meet their partner where they are. So that's super dope.
Exactly. And humans have something called the negativity bias, which is that I think we talked about this before, Celeste. So for example, it takes on average 5 compliments to outweigh 1 critique. So if you say to your spouse, that thing you do in bed is not good, it takes 5, I love this, 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 in order to even equate to the 1 negative. And you know what that is. Or, think about this. How happy are you if you find $20? I'm happy. How upset are you if you lose $20? You look for an hour. But if you find $20, you don't jump for joy for an hour. We have a negativity bias. And so being solution focused is necessary because it's to counter the negativity bias that we're stuck with.
Yes, that's good. That's a great way to start the show. I like that. I feel you always talk about the solution focused way, but I never really kind of broke it down. And I think we're in a society that will tell us everything that we're not. And so it's easy to stay in this like negative cycle because, it's very capitalistic. They profit off of our insecurity. So, you have to be really intentional, really self-aware to make sure you're mindful of this kind of like solution focused mindset. I love that too, right? Okay. So let me see if I could, this was a long thing. Okay. Oh, it all comes up. So I'll read it and then you can start. I have issues with my child's mom and have tried to do everything she wanted just so I can see my child. When we were ending our relationship, I found out she was pregnant. I can tell she resents me for not staying in a relationship, but I did not want to do it just for the child. How can I, sorry, stop it. How can I maintain a healthy relationship with my child's mother, even though she can be extremely toxic?
That is a good question. Well, so let's parse this. And I appreciate this question. I think this is not some rare instance that only this guy has ever faced. Thing number one, well, so far it doesn't sound like you can maintain one, because to maintain something, you'd have to already have it, right? So unfortunately, you don't have the benefit of maintaining one currently. Sounds like you might have to try to create one, right? And this is challenging. This is challenging because of the way that, frankly, custody and court and some of the incentives are set up. This can be challenging. But one thing I would say is that the more it can be made about the children, the better off you'll be. And this is what I mean. Setting boundaries within yourself that are all around parenting. Everything I do have to do with this person. You don't want to be in a relationship with them. And yet you are in a relationship, a totally different one that it doesn't sound like you planned for or intended, but one that's going to last at a minimum 18 years. In reality, as long as your child lives, you'll have a reason to interact with this person. So you set up boundaries where you go, okay, I know in my own mind that no matter what they say, I'm not going to rekindle this relationship. And I'm going to be very clear about that. I'm not going to do that thing that dudes do. Sometimes people do it, but dudes particularly do it. The idea that my baby mother, I always kind of have like one foot in the door for romance or sex. Instead, no. We are co-parents. And so if she dates, that's fine. The only concern you could ever have is if it's somehow unsafe for the baby. But if she's happy with a dude and that dude's taller than you with bigger muscles and more money, great. You've done great, Lisa. That's amazing that you were able to achieve that. I'm glad your dreams are coming true. To always do what you say you're going to do and to be a to be an asset, right? Whatever the parenting agreement is, you don't. Sometimes people think of fathers as extra, meaning like, I see my kid when I can. Well, no, because mom doesn't see the kid when mom can. Mom, assuming mom has custody, mom by default has the kid, right? So you should by default have the kid on your times, whatever your time is, right? It's not a wonder, is dad going to pick up the child, or does dad know how to change diapers? Nothing like that. Treat yourself like an equal parent, to where, because one thing about parenting is it's rough and it's 24/7. And a dad who shows up, takes the kid, does everything that they can do, pretty soon can be relied upon, right? And then mom starts looking forward to that, whatever, and can sometimes become appreciative. Now, I'm not promising that always happens. Then lastly, the truth is you do have parental rights. And so if ever there's a time when you're prevented from doing things because you know what you say, I did everything she wanted so I could see my child, that's actually not necessary. You have a legal rights to see your child and be a parent. And in fact, your child deserves that. But first, you must establish those. So some people are able to do it informally. I think that's honestly a minority of people. But some people are able to do it informally, where we just know dad comes on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and whatever it is. But if you can't do that, and she says, well, no, I don't like what you said, so you're not seeing the baby anymore. Actually, ma'am, that's not true. And I'm going to go down to the courthouse and I'm going to file for custody, and you establish the boundaries. Because in the end, the most important person in this relationship anymore isn't mom, and it isn't you. It's the child. You all made a choice. The child did not make a choice. This child has its whole life ahead of them. You do not. You got at least, probably 2 decades less minimum. So if you establish those rights, and then of course you follow through on them, whatever your custody time is or whatever it is, you do that. You say, but what if I get put on child support? You might. You will. You almost certainly will if that's the instance. But this is the situation that you're in, and so that's what I would say. Those are the steps to kind of handle it.
I like that a lot. A really big one is the boundaries piece. I think that in these kind of like relationships, I like that how you started off with you can't maintain something that's not there, which is true. I didn't think about that. And I think in these kind of situations, if your boundaries aren't established, you're going to by default go along with that person's boundaries. And that's like with any relationship, right? Like, so it's really important, I think, for the person who wrote this, or whoever is kind of like in the situation, is to really think about establishing your boundaries, despite, if you feel like you're being coerced or you feel like it's for the greater good, when you feel like you're being trapped or you're struggling with whatever it is that you're doing. Another big thing is the idea of having rights. I think especially for men, unfortunately, the courts aren't always favorable. I don't want to sugarcoat it and say that, just go to court. And I do understand there's a lot of biases around men. So I get the hesitation to do that. But like Jeff says, like that is a possibility. And it may not be an easy one, but what's the goal? I want my child to have like a healthy life, and I want to do what's best for my child. Having a healthier version of you is what's best for your child, where you don't feel resentful of, getting your child only when it's convenient for the mom or anything like that. So I'm not saying it's just go to court and it's going to be easy. Like it may be a battle, but I think if we remember our goal when we're doing these things, it'll make the task feel a little bit different when we remember the why, because like Jeff said, the child didn't ask to be in the situation, which unfortunately is pretty common, and I know it sucks.
Well, so a thing that, and Celeste, you put it a very good way. Like, I know it's not easy. The truth is, easy is, unless both people agree at all times, easy is off the table. So if both people agree at all times, it can be easy. Do you get what I mean? But otherwise, you're like trapped in the submarine with this other person. And if you don't get along, it's really hard because you have to, no matter how upset you are, usually you just walk away from somebody, right? If somebody mistreats you or you don't like them or you break up with them, you don't want to see them anymore, then you just don't see them anymore. But that's off the table. You already had a relationship that didn't work. So you was about to do that. And then it turns out, oh, I'm pregnant. Okay, well, now you're stuck together for a couple of decades. So instead of looking for what's easy, you look for how can I, like, it's basically a bunch of if-then propositions. If we can agree to custody time and both of us adhere to it, then that's good enough. If either one deviates, because if she had wrote in, I would encourage her. If she said if she said 1 out of 10 times he skipped his custody, I would say go to court.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because if both people can't adhere, then the next thing to do is get something in writing that's backed up by the state. And at that point, if people don't adhere to that, then you continue to bring it to court to get it changed. This sucks, but the reason why is because most things, let's say instead you were fighting over a car, right? Well, in the end, you can just charge a car to the game. Like, you know what? I paid for it, but it's in her name. She can have it. Let's say you are fighting over a cat. Listen, people love their cats, but in the end, Jeff does not see cats as the equivalent of people. In this case, this is a human being. And thus, there's really no trade-off, right? Your child is, children are invaluable, and your child is more valuable to you than any child on earth, I would assume. Yeah. So there's really no deal you can cut where you go, well, the kids get hurt, but at least X.
Right.
I would say that a good parent says, nope, under no circumstances do I willingly let my kids get hurt. And so you're playing this if-then game. If we can't agree, then we get it settled at court. If you can't follow court, then we go back to court until there's an arrangement that's good. Mm-hmm. It really does suck really bad, but the alternative is inconsistency. And Celeste, you're a therapist. Do you meet people in your practice, adults, that talk about how their parents were inconsistent? Not evil, not that both parent was a Nazi, just that they're inconsistent. They weren't always there for me. They didn't. My dad, sometimes he would come, sometimes he'd leave me waiting on the porch. You ever heard that before, Celeste?
Yeah.
Right. And so in the future, your child's going to be in therapy in 20 years. And the question is, will they say, my parents did everything they can do for me, but I hate my job? Or will they say, my dad's a piece of shit and that's why I'm a murderer?
Right. One thing before I move on to the next question that you brought up around, with men and how, like, because, I don't want to like put genders, but a lot of times women tend to have the kids, and then I hear guys say, I'm babysitting my child or something like that. Do you feel like society kind of promotes that thing as if where guys don't feel as valued in their child's life? I seen a meme, Mother's Day's here. There's the mothers are on the cruise and a nice gourmet dinner, and then Father's Day there's like a TV dinner. That is not funny. That is so sad.
Well, I'm a dad, but I'm like, the idea, Mother's Day, give mom a break. Father's Day, spend time with your kids. No.
Well, what do you think that the discrepancy is around? And I know we all have choices, but I feel like there's this narrative where guys aren't always as valued, and they fall into that narrative.
Well, we could get into the nature versus nurture, but whatever you want to establish it as, clearly in our society,
I think you froze, Jeff, if you're talking. I think it's you. Yeah, you're frozen. All right, dang, he was just about to get into it. I'm gonna wait till he comes back on. He's frozen. If you're talking, Jeff, you're gonna have to click off and click back on because you're frozen. Okay, yeah, he's gonna click back on. So if you are joining us, me and Jeff come on once a month to talk about relationships. People write in and ask questions. Their questions could be all over the place because we talk about all types of relationships, romantic, work, family. We've had them all. So, I think that even though there's different types of relationships that people talk about, I find like these common themes where they all tend to kind of play into one another. Okay, go ahead.
I abandoned you.
It's okay.
Sorry
I've
about
done it
that.
to other people.
Yeah, well, sorry, live. Clearly, in our society, men are the adult, women are the default parents, right? Whether you want to say it's nature or nurture, I think there's a combination of reasons why. It extends into court. And so if two parents are not married, then the mother has default custody. That's actually just the situation. So if you're not married at first hand, mother has default custody. So in fact, this guy, he seemed to be describing a situation where they're not married. Thus, he's right that mom has custody and he doesn't. But there is a movement to give dads more custody. It might be Oklahoma that started off, they call it a presumption of shared custody. I think that's for married couples only. So in other words, if a couple is married, they assume during a divorce that each parent gets 50-50, and you have to prove why that shouldn't happen. Right now, that's really not the situation. Right now, the situation is you assume that mom has custody and dad has visitation, and really it's mom's to lose oftentimes. Either mom says, I agree to 50-50, or dad proves that mom has a current heroin problem.
Okay.
But it doesn't start off 50-50. And so I wouldn't expect this guy to get 50-50 over his baby mother's objections. He probably wouldn't. That being said, you're in the situation you're in, and the court, a common thing the court would say is you have every Wednesday and every other weekend, or maybe you just have every weekend. So that's visitation, not 50-50 custody. However, once they say that, she can't say, I don't like your new girlfriend, so the baby's not going with you.
Right.
She can't say that anymore. So you can offer that consistency. That doesn't mean you will have the baby all the time, but no one will be able to stop you.
Right.
And there'll be recourse if someone tries. So that would be the goal. It's not ideal, but like I said, easy's over unless y'all get along great. And here's the secret. You was breaking up when she got pregnant.
Right. I really wish that, next question. I just really wish that people were able to, and this is not just this type of situation, but I think we're led so much by our emotions, or we allow our emotions to lead us. And if we took a step back to recognize like what that was doing to the child, we wouldn't do the thing we do because we're so resentful or whatever it is.
Everybody knows that things would be fine if only this other person would stop acting up. Me, I'm doing what I have to do because the other person will not shape up. Everybody knows that.
All right, let's get to this next question. So, need help with my dating life. Where are all the single people? How are people dating in this COVID life?
Well, I know where all the single people are. Tinder, Grindr, Christian Mingle, Farmer's Date, J-Date, whatever it is. What's Bumble? Is that one?
Bumble, yeah.
Right. So online dating is of course. Is that the only option?
Yeah.
That's the only option that lets you just sit and do it. You can now. This is a genderless. This is a genderless question, and so the advice is actually it's not the same for both genders, I don't think, or for the dominant male or female genders. The advice is not exactly the same.
Okay.
Right? But because even like on the dating apps, for example, women of all types can find some success on the dating apps, but generally men struggle unless they're in we're going to say the top 20% of men. That means, tall and earning some money and take good pictures. What's that? What'd you say?
High value.
Right. And Kevin Samuels, a high value man, right? Because of course, women are propositioned on dating apps all day. So I'm not gonna lie. If you're a dude whose value isn't immediately apparent, right, then the dating apps can feel a little bit like screaming into a tornado because you swipe right on people, but no one ever swipes right on you. I admit that can be true. But that being said, that's where a lot of people are. The alternative is where I think a lot of hookups and I don't mean hookups in a sexual way, where a lot of relationships are built, you encounter people with similar interests. And so one thing to do would be, if you're into skydiving, then you go skydiving single. And when there's a single person there that you're interested in, guess what you guys have in common right off the rip? Skydiving. So if you sit in the house, you ever seen that meme? It says like, shout out to all the single independent women who just at home waiting for Mr. Right to break into their house. Right? Like, if your interest is, I just like Netflix and staying home. Well, okay, it's going to be tough. And you don't like dating apps. That's going to be tough. So you got to be, if you want people to be interested in you, you got to be interesting. So that advice is gender universal, which is, if you're into bowling, you join a bowling league. I don't give a shit. You just move to this town. You don't know nobody. You join a bowling league, and guess what? They will be there. People that bowl. And you like to bowl, and they like to bowl. And guess what y'all will do? You'll bowl, and then eventually you'll share your nachos, and then before you know it, you're pregnant.
But don't turn into the first question.
Don't do that. Don't turn into that first question. Use protection until you're sure you ain't gonna break up.
So good. I like it. And also I'll say, change is inevitable, and how we move with change, is important. And I think that with COVID happening, the way that people are dating just kind of looks different. Apps is probably like the number one. And I know people, have been kind of struggling with that when they're maybe a more in-person type of thing. But I would say to this person, like, try to open up to other possibilities. Also, there's a lot of things happening online now. So, like networking events or different type of things, it's a whole world. It's a whole world online now. So I would say, think about, not going into it, like, I'm trying to find my life partner, but just kind of just exploring. Because I think when you get obsessive over, and I think when I give advice around this kind of stuff, I'm in a relationship, so it's hard. Sometimes it's hard for people to really hear me. But I do think that if you become obsessive over, I want to be in a relationship, I want to be in a relationship, it can get tiring. You can accept anything. So just kind of like, just because you're not in a relationship does not mean you're less valuable. And I know a lot of times people unfortunately will equate their status of like, am I in a relationship or not, to the value that they hold. So like, just be mindful of that.
I think that's very true. I think another thing that could help this helps in almost everything. You got to have an abundance mentality. An abundance mentality is the idea that I'm going to catch a fish, not I'm going to catch that mackerel right there. I don't know how to catch one single fish. Maybe he just won't bite the hook. Yeah. Maybe he just swims away. You're agonizing over that one fish. Instead, you say to yourself, you know what? There's plenty of fish, and I'm doing all the things, and if I do them, I'll catch. And in this case, even catch, I don't like too much. But I've had friends in the past. I've had mates in the past, and I'm gonna be me. And some people are gonna like me. Some people are gonna hate me. Most people are gonna be meh. And eventually, I'll encounter somebody, because I don't like everybody either, right?
Right.
And don't put so much. You do land a date, and you start going, "Oh, is this person the one? Are we gonna?" People can feel that. You can really feel desperation. If you ever had a salesman, really, you can feel that they really like work on commission. Ideally, I wouldn't know that you work on commission, because you would just seem to be helpful, but in the end, the decision's mine. But the more you try to sell me a car, this car's really good. No, this you got to try it. Listen, you'll love it. Listen, don't look elsewhere. Don't listen. When you get in this car, you're gonna buy this, right? it makes you not want to buy it. And so if you act like that about yourself, where you're being all sweaty and I know, I used to be cuter, but ugh, people hate it. Instead, just know, like, look, I've been doing the work. I'm my best self. Not I just rolled out of bed and this shirt hasn't been washed and I wore it 3 days in a row, but I'm my best self. And there are people that like people like me. And I don't even know if I like this person, but we're gonna kind of see if we vibe. And that's it. No, not thinking about a year, not thinking about 10 years, thinking about I'm trying to have a good time tonight. And then at the end of it, did I? If I did everything I can do to make us have a good time, successful night. And nothing further,
Yeah, I agree. This next question, this is, I would say unfortunately related because I just hate that people think this way, but it makes sense why there are so many relationship coaches, because
you gave the bunny for people that's listening. When she said relationship coaches, she gave the double bunny ears. Relationship coaches, in a way that I wonder if Celeste is skeptical about that.
So yeah, the quotations, and I love coaches. I have coaches on all the time, but I do find that there's a lot of men that are giving relationship advice and really profiting off of it. And I think a lot of it has to do with this question here. So I'm gonna read this question for people on the audio. So I hate being alone. I want to be in a relationship. Hate being single. How can you be happy when you are single when everyone around me is in a relationship? And I literally think this question speaks to why so many people are profiting off of giving out this relationship advice, and why people are calling people like Kevin Samuels, who degrades them because they're so desperate to not be alone. So I'll let you kind of like talk about that because I love it when you kind of give your thought process around this kind of stuff.
Well, isn't this is not fully like, so we talk about solution focus. This has one solution focus statement. I want to be in a relationship, or a relationship would be my ideal state. But there's a lot of it that's kind of, focused on the problem and the current state of misery, right? And I understand why. So let's try to reframe it. Now, I got to put words in the writer's mouth because they're not here. But what we would do is we would work through and we'd say, okay, well, so your goal, it sounds to me, describe a relationship to me, person. And in the end, I think we get to something. I want a companion to share my life with. That's what I think it would be. Okay? It's okay. You want a companion to share your life with. Well, and then you just go through, well, what would that person look like? And I don't really mean physically, although that could be part of it. But, they would probably say something like we would share interests, or they would listen, or things like that. Say, okay. And so they share interests, and what interests are those? And then they'd say, well, I love reading. And I say, okay, well, when's the last time you went to the bookstore? Well, no, I buy everything off Amazon because it's 10 cents cheaper. And I say, okay, well, what if you went to a bookstore? What if you went to, if you're Boston-based, Frugal Bookstore in Roxbury? And what if you spoke to one person there, or whatever it is? Basically, the idea being that you're trying to generate, if you want someone to spend your life with, the first thing you would have to do is have somebody you could have one conversation with. Just like if you wanted to run a mile, first you'd have to run 10 feet. Right? So how can you be happy when you're single when everyone around me in a relationship? Well, I would say that your goal is to be in a relationship. And in the meantime, you do what you can do to get on your path. And because you're making progress, because you're working on yourself, because you're getting out there, you find happiness kind of along the way. But you're not sitting down. You might never be happy sitting on this path, not making any progress. But you could be happy on the path to a relationship, which is I'm meeting people, I'm dating, I'm working on myself so that I'm the kind of person that I would like to date. Right? You could find happiness there, or contentment in that, like, you know what? I'm doing my thing. This sounds like, I don't know. This sounds like both. This is what I would bet. This is somebody who is single, but has been on some bad dates and is dejected. or hasn't met anyone that they consider to be eligible in a while. So they're sitting there saying, this sucks. How come everyone else is at the finish line, but I'm not at the finish line? And then what I'm basically saying is, well, you have to go towards the finish line to be at the finish line. So there you go.
Thank you. Well, so I'm struggling with just the first sentence alone. I hate being alone. And I think that, I'm just going to put gender on it only because I talk to people for a living. And a lot of times I hear this from females. And I think that a lot of times, from my professional opinion and just from my own personal life, I think that, sometimes we as females will tend to put pressure on the partner to fulfill that lonely void. And I think starting out with trying to find someone in this position of I hate being alone, you're already kind of starting off on the wrong foot if you were to meet someone, because you're going to look for them to kind of fill that void. When I think that it's important that if you are entering into a relationship, right, a committed relationship, I think it's important that you're coming fulfilled, and that partner is an added bonus. And I think a lot of times, there's this mystified thought of what love is, or it's picture perfect, it's reality TV, it's the pictures that you see on somebody's Instagram, when it's so much deeper than that. If you were to break it down, what do they want? They probably want to have somebody to come home to every night, but they don't want to deal with the bullshit that comes with it. I think like for the person that wrote this or may feel the same way, really think about how you can build a relationship with yourself, and make that your priority. And I know it's not society's priority, because society is, this narrative of like, when you're single, something's wrong with you, but you should be in a relationship. Tracy Ellis Ross, like, I mean, I don't know, like her, I don't know her personally, but she appears to be, she enjoys the life that she has, and it's not societal standards. I don't know. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, no, I think I'm glad that you stopped at that first sentence. I breezed over it, and I think you were right. Well, I said earlier, if you want someone to be interested in you, you got to be interesting first, right? And so I glossed over what you nailed, which is that you'll do better, you'll attract more interest and more people when you are doing things, when you're living your best life. You can't go, I'll live my best life when I get somebody. You got to live your best life first, and then somewhere along that path, you're likely to encounter somebody who's a good partner for that. This is good advice. Sometimes people want to like start a business with their friends, but oftentimes I'll tell them, well, I don't think that's great. I think a better thing to do is to start your business, and what you'll do is you'll make friends that make sense to do the business with. Because once you're, I don't know, you're in some business accelerator, and you'll meet somebody at that thing, or you're in business school and you'll meet somebody, or you're, whatever it is you're doing. You open a store, and then the guy across the street opens a store, and then both these stores are struggling. Then you combine stores, and because you like each other's work ethic. So this is the same thing. That happens more often. You meet somebody who's already like on your wave, right? You're like, so you go, I wish I had someone to go to the beach with. And when I do, I'll go to the beach. When you go to the beach, you know what the beach is full of? People that like the beach. So that's where they are. You're the one that's missing. So you got to go and do whatever it is. And that, I think, will feed into what Celeste is saying, which is you might find, instead of saying, that it's really a toxic thing, the idea that somebody else completes you, to find out like, no, I'm complete, but I want someone that compliments me, compliments who I am. And by that, I mean, they're like the accent. They're like the accessory on an already dope outfit. Not, I'm going to be naked until I find the perfect outfit. Like, no, I'm going to have everything. And then they just compliment it. Right. So this is the challenge, which is, I know your feelings, writer, your feelings don't feel that way. But there's another phrase that it will often say, feeling follows action. So first, you do the things that would make you happy. Then you feel happy. Not when I feel happy, I'll do the things that make me happy. Clearly, that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. If we stopped and thought about it, we would recognize how much it doesn't make sense. But again, so much of society says like I'm supposed to be in a relationship, and I think that's where the disconnect comes from.
So I'm going to say, so this letter writer, I'll give one piece of like actionable advice. I want you to think, hopefully you're listening right now, think about the dream thing. I wish I had somebody to do X with. Take a cooking class, go learn such and such thing, or do such a thing, go to the museum with. Think about that. Now you thought of it. Now I want you to go do that and go do things like that before you get the person. And you know who you might meet on the journey to do those things? The person. But don't think about that. Just start off doing the thing, whatever it is. Do not wait for them. Do it now. That will make you happier, and that'll up your chances.
I love that a lot. That's so dope. That's good. That's really good. Actionable advice. I have a question. Just your thoughts around. We did a podcast a while ago about challenge and monogamy. One of the things that comes up a lot is the dating world, and when it comes to dating, would you consider entertaining multiple people dating, or dating one person dating? Can you entertain different people and still it be dating, or is it only one person? I think some people have struggled with this idea of dating different people because they feel like they're being deceitful, but then they also are struggling with putting all their eggs in one basket when they're dating one person. So how can people maneuver the two? Because I get this a lot. I feel like back in my day, I can't believe I just said that because I'm so fucking old.
Back in your day?
Back in my day, I guess because we didn't have those options of dating apps and stuff like that. So I felt like it was just one person. I didn't hear about people dating multiple people, but I feel like it's more common now. And I don't know if because there's more access or not, but I'm just curious about your thoughts on this.
Many of us, our grandparents got kids with multiple people. So there was always, way before apps, there was dating around. Okay, way before that. Okay,
it just wasn't on paper.
Right, exactly. There was nobody's phone to read, but people was getting it popping. Please don't think that that's not the case. That being said,
you're so right. My bad. I don't know why I just said that.
Well, because it feels like these days, but in fact, no. People was getting. Listen, Martin Luther King had a side. He's Martin Luther King. All right, so people was doing it. Here's the situation. We can get into the semantics of it, but which is, what does dating mean? Different people use it to mean different things. Here's what I would say. Until you have an implicit agreement, you don't. Explicit. Until you have an explicit agreement, you don't. So being on 10 dates with somebody is not an agreement to be monogamous. Agreeing to be monogamous is the only agreement that you can have that will make you monogamous. We could go on 10 dates, and every time I date you, then the next day I date her. Do you know what I mean? It's not gender based. People have all types of different romantic arrangements, and the only arrangement you can have is one that's explicit. Celeste, will you be my girlfriend? And only you and I date each other exclusively. Celeste, will you be my wife? That's the only thing, and that means that it'll just be a monogamous relationship.
Right.
Anything else, people try to enter into these implicit deals because we all know, everyone knows that a good woman does X. Everyone knows that a good woman, once you keep a toothbrush at my house, everyone knows that once you keep a toothbrush, that's the sign. That's a sign of nothing. That's a sign that you want to be able to brush your teeth after you spend the night. That's not a sign of anything. Communication. You say, so, people worry about, the what are we talk, but that talk is appropriate. That, what are we? That talk is appropriate. Now, you might not hear what you want to hear, but it's better to have that talk. You might drive the person away. They might go, whoa, this is too close to me, too fast. Well, okay, well, now you know. But, you should always assume you don't have a contract until you do. Do you see what I'm saying? And so anyone who's dating, who you haven't had a discussion about being exclusive, you should assume that you're not exclusive. Easy.
And I've had this conversation on both sides, where I tell I'm not, I hate to say it because I feel like I'm using gender and I try not to, but I'm gonna say it. A lot of times, it's typically the female that will say, "Well, it feels like we're in a relationship," and I'll have a guy who says, like, "Well, they're doing this or they're doing that," and I feel like I say you kind of owe them just, if you're feeling it, but it's still that person's responsibility to, to have that communication. But I feel like for people listening, especially with this like implicit and explicit contract, I just think like putting the cards on the table or saying everything out loud is important because one of y'all are thinking it anyway. So I feel like you could save yourself so much headache by just having that conversation, even if it, I think some people want any little bit of comfort, even if it's delusional. So I just think it's important to just kind of put everything out on the table so that there's not this big headache just because we're like doing things that couples do. But like Jeff says, like, if it's not said, you're technically not a couple. And I think that's really
it's not even technically sounds like, no, it's okay. But you see how technically sounds like really we are though. No, really you're not.
I know, my bad.
Technically is the right. If Donald Trump is technically not the president, you know what that means? He's not president. It's not. He's not half and half. He's 100% not president because he's technically not the president. And so, in the same way, someone who's technically not your boyfriend is not your boyfriend, right? And I go a step further and say, not only that, you also have to make sure we all agree on what boyfriend means. Does boyfriend mean that we're moving in together? Does boyfriend mean that we spend a night most nights? Does boyfriend mean that we're monogamous? It don't go without saying. There's many people that call each other girlfriend and boyfriend who have arrangements that you would not be happy with. So you have to clarify everything. The thing that I'll say is, think of how delusional it is, because you use the word delusional, Celeste, and I agree. We really, it's cognitive dissonance. We want our hearts to believe what we want to believe. Think about this. This person that I'm messing with, okay, we have sex and I really enjoy it and I want them for myself. I can't bring myself to say that to them, but they probably turn down sex from others all the time for me. But we can't talk about that. We're not close enough that I can say that to them, but they probably turn down sex from others. But we can't talk about it. We're not close enough to speak about it, but we're so close that this man declines blowjobs. You sound silly. Like, obviously, if you can't talk about it, then certainly you should not have any expectation that your wish is coming true. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, even though if I speak about it, I'm scared that they'll be scared away. Yeah. But they're probably just granting my wish anyway, even though I can't bring it up.
Yeah.
You sound silly. So there's your answer. Get any contract you want, make it explicit. If you can't do that, you can't have it.
Yeah, no, that's good. I appreciate you answering that. It comes up a lot. I think at some point we need to have another conversation about this, a whole podcast about it, because I think it's hard to hear the truth, but I think a lot of people, this relationship thing is, I think people are struggling and feeling as if the relationship, not having a relationship or whatever, that's holding them back when it's really themselves. Like, not being in a relationship, they feel like that's the reason why they are unhappy or why they feel how they feel. When you can be in a relationship, there are people on paper that look like they're in a happy relationship but are struggling. So it's not the relationship, it's you. That's just how I feel.
It's really tough, but the common denominator in all your relationships and all your life is you. Mm-hmm. So and the one thing that you can change, the one thing that you have the most influence over you, and you have almost no influence over anybody else, almost none.
Yeah.
Right. Anyone who ever tried to get someone else to stop smoking or to get your kids to do XYZ, you know immediately, damn, I'm very limited in my influence. The person you can change is you. Any strategy that's based on everyone else changing, the world's going to change, and it'll make my life better. That's a strategy for being a lifetime loser. The people that get what they want are the ones who, when I say get what they want, I mean the outcomes that they want. The people that get the outcomes that they want are the people that change their way of being to meet the world, not the people that wish or figure out why. I'm justified in being resentful. I'm mad at the world, and I'm justified in that resentment because the world is not fair, and I'm the one who figured that out. So I'm just gonna sit in this uncomfortable chair, in this uncomfortable life, with this uncomfortable relationships and uncomfortable job because the world is not fair. Mm-hmm. No, then you'll just be uncomfortable because really what you want is out there, but you're probably going to have to, if it didn't already come to you, then there's some change you're going to have to make. That's globally true. It's not just true for relationships, but it's especially true for relationships only because there's not another component. It's you're trying to match with someone else. You can't change someone else. All you can change is you.
Dang, yeah, this is dope. Thank you. I feel like we started with solution focused and ended with solution focused. And you know, I feel like every podcast we have together, we always go back to you. And I'm you know, my hope is that people, and even when I post, I'm always talking about what you have control over, what you can do. And I think the more people hear this like dialogue, they'll start to kind of shift their thought process. And kind of like look at what they can actually do. So this was good. Thank you so much.
That's why you're in the Washington Post. That's why you're in the Washington Post, Celeste, because you're changing the world.
And what if somebody wanted to work with you or email you? Like, how could they reach out to you?
Sure. You can email me at jeff@rogersleads.com. Down on the chyron below that's going below us, it says Rogers Lead, but Rogers Leads. So Celeste, the only person you can change is yourself. So I will just say out loud, it's Rogers Leads. But thank you. You do a lot, Celeste. You know, I'd be trying to talk to Celeste. She'd be like, Jeff, talk to my assistant. So
no, he said.
She's doing a lot in 2021. Celeste she's kind of a big deal. So I'm just lucky to be here. Thank you very much.
I guess that you owe me that. You're giving me a hard time because I give you a hard. This is the first time you're giving me a hard time. No, thank you so much. I really enjoy hearing you talk about this stuff because a lot of the stuff I listen to people like you. I like listening because all it does is reinforce my thought process. And it's so clear. You're not degrading anybody when you talk about this stuff. I think there's ways to like have a conversation and help people understand something without talking down to them.
Well, I'm going to start. No, I've decided. You see, I'm going to start doing Kevin Samuels from now on because this isn't working. So, ma'am, how old are you, ma'am? All right, you're 38. You got 2 kids. How much do you weigh? How much do you weigh, ma'am? Okay, ma'am, you're obese. Brutal. Ma'am, look at me. I'm wearing a suit, ma'am. I get to talk to you however I want. I wear a suit on the internet.
Are you still doing Hella Black Trivia?
Oh, that's true. Yep. The name of my game, Black No Chaser. That's a good name, but that ain't us. Hella Black Trivia is the name of. We do Black Trivia Monthly. We do it for the people. It's not my main job, but we do it because the people needed it. You can look us up, Hella Black Trivia, on Facebook or Instagram and see when we're doing it. You know, we do it every third Tuesday, and we do one-off events sometimes. You can come to that too. And then if you think I talk shit on here, come to Hella Black Trivia.
You're just ain't talking shit. You're like G on here compared to what you are in real life.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. And wait till I wear when I wear my Kevin Samuels suit next week, and I'm gonna have glasses, and I'm just gonna like, who wants to be belittled next? Ma'am, you're overweight. Ma'am, you have kids. Ma'am, I'm a high value man.
Calling in. I'm like, dang, it's that much desperation out there. It kind of breaks my heart. Like, oh my God. So we gotta keep talking.
Celeste, Celeste, I want you to come in a kufi, and I want you to be Umar Johnson, and we're just going to go back and forth.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you, Jeff. This is awesome. I appreciate you. You know how I feel about you.
Same here, my dear.
Bye.
See you soon.
Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoy our episodes together, oh, there it goes. If you enjoy episodes together, if you go to CelesteTheTherapist.com/podcast, you will find a link with all of our episodes, along with a box where you can ask your question, and we will answer it on the show. I really appreciate you all for tuning in, for rocking out with me. Until next time, I will talk to you later.
Under the 65 days, but I treat every day like it's my last. I'm only concerned with building on the future, cause I can't change my past. Positive vibes for positive lives. She just giving you that truth and shifting your mind. It's more mental than you realize. It's up to you to take control, cause this world is cold and negativity gon' take its toll. Now we've been told any day could be your last. I'm embracing every moment and I cherish every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity, and make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist. Let's go.